Hey, I'm Ziv, and this is On the Journey. Every week on the journey explores the intersection of wellness, spiritual inquiry, mental health, personal growth, and purposeful living through the eyes of the people we interview. And today I'm happy to host Natália Leal, a trainer and a coach. And today Natalia is going to do a coaching session with me. So Natalia, I would love to hear what we're going to do and a bit about yourself.
Hi. Hello, everyone, wherever you are. Thank you for the invitation, Ziv. I'm very excited for being here today. So I am a life and career coach and a trainer. I also lecture on the side, but my career has gone from academia to running organizations to a little bit of policy making until I finally found that this was where I felt comfortable and happy. What I do is I work mostly one-on-one with clients. I'm also preparing some online courses and retreats. But what we're going to do right now is a little bit of a taster of something that many coaches do with their clients, but which people can also just do by themselves at home. So I thought it was a very useful and interesting tool because you don't need the support of a coach, although you will see it can be helpful to pull a little bit more information and more reflection out of you.
Sounds really interesting. So let's do it. Let's start.
Yeah. So normally I would have already a preliminary conversation with somebody else. We would have an idea, maybe what's the general topic we're going to work on together for a couple of sessions or something a bit longer. But quite frequently, I do enjoy asking people to do one exercise. It's probably one of the most common exercises in coaching, which is called the Wheel of Life.
Okay.
Super powerful exercise. I don't know if it's familiar to you. It's basically a visualization tool, and it helps us to just kind of take a picture of where you are today. That's the first part, and that's what we will do now. And then we'll see what comes next.
Wonderful. Let's do it.
So Ziv, I'd like to know if you have a little bit of pen and paper ready with you. So for those who then want to join us, they can do the same thing as well. Just a piece of paper. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Something to write with, something to write on?
I have.
Okay. So I do this exercise a little bit different than other people. And so actually my first question usually is I would like you to think about your own life and what you think are really the most important areas in your life. So I'm not talking about the goals you have in life, what you want to achieve, but more about the dimensions in your life without which you wouldn't be able to say that I have a full life, that I'm living a fully satisfied life. And so an easy way to think about it is, for example, health. We rarely think about it, but if we didn't have it, we would see really, no, this is really important generally. And so most people will consider this relevant. But what else would be must-have areas in your life for you to be living right now a fully satisfying life? So, and I'd like you to just spend maybe a minute thinking, so what's important for me? What do I need to have? Sometimes it's the reverse question. What could I not live without? So like the health.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just scribble down on your piece of paper in one of the corners. What are the things that come up to your mind?
Okay, so I'm pausing the video. I will write them down and then we'll continue. Okay, that was more interesting than I thought because of course I know what are the most important things in my life that without them, everything will be worse. But thinking about it and writing them down was meaningful. So yes, I have it.
So can I ask you to share what you wrote so far then in your list?
Yeah, so I wrote physical, like of course the physical aspect, which is like health, but it's also to have a place to live in, to have clothes, to have food, like basic things. And then family, of course, for me, it's the most important thing. Relationships that beyond family. A purpose, to feel that I'm driven and that I have purpose. A growth, like that I'm growing, I'm in an environment of growth. Discovery that is not, for me, it's not exactly, it's really important for me to feel that I discover new things about life and fun, just simple fun. Binge on Netflix once in a while. So I think
I'm there with you. So
Yeah.
That's your list so far? Yeah. That's perfect. I mean, I like to start this way because it forces each of us to see what comes to our mind as the most important areas. Traditionally, actually, coaches and therapists will give you a standard wheel of life with predetermined areas of what are the most important most important domains. I personally don't agree with that because I think we get to define what matters for us. Yet, I do think it's worth going back and saying, so what do they normally mention? What's normally there? And I'm just quickly going to share a slide where I've just kind of collected the things that, yeah, okay. So usually if you had a predefined wheel of life, most likely you would have these areas in there. Sometimes they come together, sometimes they come apart. There are different numbers of areas you can have. And so some people have things like most people will have something either called career, work, job, health and fitness, family and friends, money and finances, significant other, romance, partner, fun and recreation, personal growth, spiritual development, and physical environment. And so there's no one way, there's no one right way of dividing these, of listing these areas. So for some people, friends and family fit perfectly together. For others, no. One thing is my family, one thing is my friends, and they are different areas. So whatever feels right for you, whatever resonates with you is what matters. But I usually show this to my clients as well, because then I ask them, okay, now you have your list, and now I've shown you what normally is mentioned. Would you like to adjust your list? You don't have to. This is not the right list. This is in no way better than yours, but would you like to adjust your list? And so I send this question to you as well.
Actually, no. I think that in a way, there are things that I understand better my list through seeing this list. So for example, for me, purpose has inside of it the career. If you know like the purpose, then you know what and also inside purpose, I have the spiritual development. It's part of my purpose. So it's interesting to see how you phrase things and how usually people phrase it, and to understand.
But what matters is the way you phrase it and what that word or expression, what meaning it has to you. Nobody can tell you, no, you should have called it career. No. Why? Because your purpose does not need, it might be reflecting your career, but it might come from different things you do in your life as well, which technically would not be career related, but they're still related to that area of your life. So I think if you're comfortable with it, that is the right answer for you. So if let me see. I counted right when you were mentioning them. You had 7 areas, right? So one of the areas that is actually most often forgotten, which I was very happy to see you include already, is actually fun. And so many of us think we should be always busy in our lives, always focus on doing something that is relevant and not just for fun.
Play, just play.
We feel guilty putting some relaxation time, some time for ourselves in it. And so that's by far, in my experience, the most forgotten area that people don't include. And after they read the list, they think, can I put fun? Sometimes as if you needed permission. No. If fun and relaxation and recreation and entertainment, whatever you want to phrase it, is important, put it there. And I would suggest for most people it is, because we need to keep this balance between relaxation, rest, and being actively engaged in something. So, okay, so the next task now is simple, though some people struggle. It's just draw a big circle in your page.
I'm from the I'm part of the struggling.
There's no points for the perfection of the circle, so.
Okay, done.
A wobbly circle is a perfect circle.
Done. I have a circle.
Okay. So now I would like you pretend the circle is a cake and slice it in as many areas as you have identified in your as relevant areas in your life. So in your case, it was 7. For other people, this can go anything from 5. I think I've seen 15.
Wow.
It doesn't matter. It's however many areas you identified before, just cut the cake more or less. So 7 is not exactly, 8 would have been easier to cut, but that's fine.
Yeah, in a way, it's, yeah, we'll have one piece really bigger than the others. 7. I feel I have I accomplished so many tasks already with you. My inner sense of accomplishment just like grew exponentially.
Well then, so we've got 7 areas in there. And now I will just show another slide a little bit because it's easier to explain with this one. I want you to imagine that the center of the circle represents 0 and the outside represents 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of the radius of the circle is a rating. And I would like to ask you, so from 0 to 10, how satisfied do you feel right now with each of those areas in your life? And so just so you can have a little bit more of an idea. So if you pretend this is an example for a wheel of life with 8 areas, if the center is 0, if the outside is 10, let's say fun and recreation is at the 5. And so I'm going to ask you to rate each of them and then kind of cut the length of the cake. So if it's 5, you're going to cut it kind of halfway through the radius. Just cut 5 around here. If it's an 8, it's okay, more outside. If it's a 2, it's somewhere inside.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just more or less have that proportion. So I think the best thing is for you first just give a rating to each of those areas. If you want, take a little bit of time to reflect on it, and then just draw it more or less. That's okay.
Okay, so I'll pause again and I'll do your task. Of course,
Yes.
our viewers are more than welcome to do it as well. Pause the video and just try it on your own. Okay, so I scored my list. What's next?
So you gave a score to each of the 7 areas. So now I want you to kind of transfer that to the wheel.
Okay, so I'll just show it for a second. And
yeah.
Okay, so that's the list and the beautiful circle I created. And now I need to put it inside the...
We don't see it very well with your background. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, the background is terrible. Okay. So imagine that you see it. Imagine that you see it. So I put next to each word the number, the score. And now, what's the next step?
Now I want you to assign each of those areas to one of your slices in the cake. So just name each of the slices. So you had one slice would be physical, one slice would be family.
Okay, so I'm doing it now.
So the order is totally relevant. Just
physical. I will pause the video. You don't need to wait for me to do it. Meanwhile, you are welcome to do it on your own. So I put the word near each of the slices, and next step.
So now I want you to, so I'll show my screen again for people to know a little bit what we're doing. So you will have your version of these wheels. So each slice has one name, which is the areas that are important for you, whichever and how many slices you have. So now you already have your rating. Can you please give me one area and the rating you gave for it?
Yeah, when I got to fun, I had to give it 5.
Okay, so here there's also fun and recreation in this slide. So if you gave it 5, then you imagine 5 is halfway through the length of the slice, right? So then you're just going to cut it in half. And so it's going to look in the end something, let's see, I have a next slide. It could look something like this. So depending on your rating, you're going to cut it in different parts. So this is an 8, for example. This is probably a 5. That's a 9, a 10. You might have bigger or smaller. It's going to look something like this.
I see. Okay, so I'll do it. I'll do it. So let's do it. you're welcome to do it. I'm going to pause the video. Meanwhile, you're welcome also to pause your video and do it. Okay, so I cut it in the right places. I have a visual image. In a way, it reminds your image.
So you now have your wheel of life drawn, and that's the first step that people can do. And sometimes I even recommend you do on a certain regular basis to remind yourself what is it that is important for you and how is it doing right now. But so now you have that visual tool. We actually, in coaching, we do an interpretation of it. We try to reflect on it. And so my first question, everyone's, I think, is if that was actually a wheel in a car or in a wagon or something like that, how bumpy would your ride be?
Quite bumpy.
Okay, so
quite bumpy.
It's likely that, like most people, they have some areas that are very low, some areas that are doing well, and that represents that there's a little bit lack of balance in your life right now. Are you comfortable sharing with us maybe what are your lowest scores? Which areas have it?
Yes, definitely. So the lowest is fun.
Yeah.
And next after fun, which in a way they're a bit similar, it's discovery.
Yeah.
And relationships, it's the third. All the rest are really high.
Yeah.
But relationships, fun, and discovery.
Okay. So I usually, if any area is 5 or below, that is generally a bit of an alarm sign. That area requires a little bit more attention, a little bit more work on it. But that is not to say that the areas that score higher, even if you have 10s, that they don't need your attention. So if you want to maintain a score of 10, you still need to dedicate some time to maintain that area. Now, what does this mean? Okay, possibly what you want to do is for the next months, weeks, or whatever, depending on what is your situation, to really focus a bit more on what can you do to improve the areas with a lower score. And as you've already kind of mentioned a little bit, the areas are not necessarily independent between themselves. So there is a relationship between, for example, fun and discovery. And some areas are related in a direct way and the others in an inverse way. Whereas you invest more time in one, sometimes you gain in the other one as well. But sometimes when you invest in one, if you invest too much in fun, your relationship time could suffer. If you're doing the fun by yourself. Of course, there are ways of integrating it.
Definitely.
But it's just to give an idea. Sometimes if you invest in your career, your family might lose a little bit in their area. But so it depends. But what I like to ask people is really think about how they relate to each other. Which areas actually kind of have a positive contagious with others, and which ones might actually feed off other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so consider that for a little bit. Just look at your wheel and think with that in mind, if you had to pick just one area for us to talk a little bit more right now, which one would you pick? So one with the lowest scores, doesn't need to be the lowest one, but.
Yeah, but I think that I totally agree. So if I'm looking at fun, and in a way on my wheel, fun is just in front of purpose. So I scored purpose as 10 and fun as 5, because I get a lot of satisfaction, and in a way, I can call it even fun from living my purposeful life. I really do things that are important for me. But it doesn't leave place to do just stupid, playful, fun things. It doesn't leave enough place for that. Definitely.
Sometimes it's a childish fun almost.
Definitely.
The play, as you were saying, that gives us just that sense of pure joy that comes from it. You do it for the sake of fun, for nothing else. Obviously, it's great that you get fun when you are implementing your purpose for what you do. But sometimes we just revel in that bit. I did it just because it was fun and it felt good.
Exactly.
And we actually deserve it. Not all the time, but we deserve these little bits of time for ourselves. And fun for some people might be, let me watch Netflix by myself. So fun can mean different things to different people. I can be going out on a party, playing games with others, painting by yourself, whatever that means.
I guess
So
it's
let's work on.
also, yeah, I'm just, while you're talking, I guess it's also not about the quantity, because maybe I do watch Netflix 3 hours a day and I don't feel that I have enough fun in my life. Or maybe I can do a very, very little bit. I can even watch 10 minutes a day and I will feel that I have tons of fun because it's just enough. So it's like the inner feeling that I don't have enough fun and play in my life. And maybe it can, maybe a few minutes a day can maybe boost it and make me feel that I have more fun. So it's
So
something
here's
worth
a question to you. Do you remember a time when you would have scored fun at a higher or lower score?
Yeah, definitely. Higher. Yeah, I do.
So what were you doing in that time that was different from now?
I was traveling.
Okay.
And then I would score fun as 10 and purpose as way lower. Yes, when thinking about it, I think I didn't find a way to find the balance or a well enough connection between purpose and fun.
Yeah. I mean, another important issue to bear in mind is, what are you aiming at? And we do this exercise with a wheel that goes from 0 to 10, but is 10 really what you're aiming for? Maybe we're happy if everything is at 8.
Mm-hmm.
So it's thinking for yourself, where would you like it to be ideally? Would you want everything at 10? Maybe yes, maybe not. But it's just destroying the presumption that 10 is the goal for everything.
Yeah, that's interesting, because if I say that something in my life is 8, it means I feel that something is missing there. And maybe I can't feel really satisfied. Maybe, I'm just wondering if I can put something as 10, although it's not perfect, but I feel so satisfied. I'm sure I can live more purposeful life. I'm sure I can do more things. But the fact that I feel that I'm satisfied, that's why I gave it 10. And with growth, I gave it 9, because I feel that something is missing with the growth. Can I be happy with 9? Yes, but can I do something that I will feel more satisfied about my growth? I guess I can. That's why I gave it 9.
Yeah.
So can we be fully happy and satisfied when something is still missing?
That's an answer that only you can have. Because ultimately, it's very hard to have everything at 10. And so sometimes it's about the compromises that you do to reach the balance so that the journey is not so bumpy. Because if you have, let's say, half of your wheel at 10, but the other at 2, is it better than having everything at 7?
And the question that jumped is it 2 because something is missing, or it's 2 because I'm not satisfied? Because maybe
No,
not.
I mean, satisfaction is a subjective. The whole point of the exercise is that you reflect on how you feel with those areas today. What is for me a 10 today, maybe tomorrow, if I stand still, that will come down to a 7 because I did nothing about it. But it puts the finger on the fact that some areas we feel there's something lacking for whatever reason. It's what you were saying. Somehow that you didn't give a 10 to growth because you felt something's still not there.
Yeah.
There's something still that and so that is perfectly fine. And the question I made before, there's no right answer to it. For some people, maybe they're okay. Okay, some areas are 10 because they're maybe more important than the other ones. The other ones are relevant, but proportionally less. But overall, the more balanced your life is, the better you will feel.
I agree. One of the, if we think about balance, then one thought that came to my mind is when you have a score, let's say 9 on something, the question is, do I need to change something or to get a 10? Or if the fact that I accept that I'm satisfied with what I have now, that fact will make it a 10. Because a 10 doesn't mean that it's perfect. 10 means that I'm satisfied with things as they are. So sometimes I can change my mindset and not necessarily my actions. Because if I'll say, you know what, the fun that I have in my life is enough. I'm happy with it. Then 5 becomes 10 just with a switch of a mindset.
Yeah. And it's also about looking at the other areas. So the fact is that we have limited time. And so you can't invest 24 hours a day in all the areas of your life. You need to make choices. And the choice then means by choosing something, it means you're denying yourself the option in that moment to work on something else. So there is, in economics, we would say that's an opportunity cost, that there's a loss that you couldn't take because you chose to go one way and not the other. It doesn't mean that later you cannot also try the other way, you cannot do the other thing. But generally, if you're focusing on one thing, you can't be doing a second thing at the same time. So multitasking, we know it's not necessarily a good thing either.
It's necessarily not a good thing.
Yeah. And so it's about choosing. So if your will is bumping, what is the areas you actually need to work on? And then the question is, okay, what could you do? Not necessarily to go from a 4 or a 5 to a 10, but just to go to the next score, to bump it a little bit. What's maybe the smallest action you could do, for example, regarding fun, to go from a 5 closer to a 6? So it's not about changing completely your life, but something simple, something maybe you could do today or tomorrow, just to start working on it. And as you said, one of the things can be just saying, oh, just talking to yourself and thinking, maybe that 5, it's actually, I'm good there. So part of it can be a conversation with yourself. I'll have a conversation with myself and reflect on it better. But just for the sake of an exercise here, I'm also going to challenge you. If you actually had to do something, an action, what could you do? So I'm not asking you to now plan a round the world trip. So something feasible that you can actually do, simple enough to implement in a couple of days or something.
So I have 2 ideas for myself.
Yeah, let's hear them.
One is to stop whenever I do something fun and to note the fact that I'm doing something fun. I think that I overlook some of the fun things, and then my experience is not powerful enough. So to pause on the fun things and note, hey, this is fun. I'm doing fun now. And the second thing is to allocate time, like to choose, okay, so Tuesdays night are fun nights, and I'm gonna just put it on my calendar and make sure I have at least once a week time that is dedicated all for that, for fun.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Both good, excellent proposals. Usually whatever feels right, it's what people say, that it is okay. We're looking for first steps, and then the challenge that later on you will ask yourself, I've done this one, what else could I do next? Mm-hmm. There's an inertia. That means that the hardest thing is to start, is that first step. Once we start working in an area in small steps, small doable things, then it's easy for us, okay, maybe I could also do this and I could also do that. In your case, what you've just mentioned is just, yes, awareness, mindfulness, just saying yourself, oh, this was fun. And that by itself increases the pleasure we get from that experience. Yeah, pausing and noting. So it's a great idea. My question would be, okay, how will we remember to actually do it?
So the writing in the calendar, the fun time is a way to remember to actually allocate time, but to note the fun moments. So I saw that being more aware is not necessarily, it doesn't help because you forget to be aware
Yeah.
many times. So for me, it's to put clues, like to put a small note on my screen that says, remember to stop when you're having fun, and to make it a habit. So each time it happens, to do it and then create a habit out of it.
Yeah. But that's exactly what I have to do, and what I try to work with everyone for every action is, okay, how will you remember to actually do it? Because we set up with the intention, I will stop and notice it. But in the moment, we often forget. And so whether people use, I don't know, nowadays with technology, send yourself a reminder, a message. Are you having fun? Maybe halfway through your Tuesday nights. Or put a post-it somewhere. Remember to have fun tonight or something. Or even ask somebody, a friend or a partner, to remind you of it. So, but it's important that we find the right anchors, triggers, cues, so that we actually implement what we set out to do. So for example, for the next one, you allocate time for it. You've been perfect, but most of the times what I need to ask, okay, when, how often, how long?
Mm-hmm.
And so for you, okay, Tuesdays nights, how many hours? Every week?
Definitely. Yeah. Every week. How many hours? I
You
guess
can
from
set
the
a
moment,
minimum.
yeah, from the moment the kids are sleeping until I feel too tired. But yeah.
That's fine. But it's making sure that it's not just saying, I will allocate time for it, but actually doing it. And eventually actually see that, okay, I want to see you book it. Get your agenda, whatever that's in your phone or the paper one, book
And do
it. If it's every night, I want the recurrent one, right? If it's every week, sorry, I want to see the recurrent one. Eventually, as we set up in the habit of doing this, we won't need these cues anymore. But the beginning is tough. And something else is going to come up. A friend is going to call you, or an urgent thing at work is going to happen. And say, oh, I'll do fun another night.
Definitely.
And then it's at least a week before you remember it again.
Definitely.
So it's about thinking about small steps, but concrete and specific enough that you schedule somewhere around your daytime, and do this for each of the areas of the wheel. Even for the ones that are doing well, if you have 10s, what can you do to make sure you maintain it? And so for each of the areas that you have, give yourself a little bit of time to reflect and think, okay, what can I do to get discovery from where it is to 1 point higher? What can I do for relationships, for growth? And really doing this reflection, making a commitment with yourself about what you feel comfortable starting right now. So I would avoid big plans to say, I'm going to do 10 things for growth. No, pick one action. If you've done that, then you can think about the next one. But pick one.
Be focused.
Be focused. Be purposeful also on what you choose. And also then be kind to yourself when you promise to do one thing, but it doesn't turn out that well. Then just allow yourself the time to say, okay, maybe something here is not working quite right. Adjust. So maybe you promised too much. Sometimes we didn't promise enough. What we promised to do was so easy, so unchallenging that we did it. It was like, we didn't get the benefit we thought we would get out of it. But it's about sitting on a regular basis and real thinking, okay, how is my life doing? What can I do with each area? And move to the next little bit. And then I recommend really schedule everything, and maybe twice a year or something like that, repeat the exercise and repeat it from scratch. So don't go and get your old wheel of life back. Repeat it from scratch. Think again, what are the areas that are important for you? Score them, and then think what you could do about it. Then you can go and get your old wheel and see how it's progressed, how it has changed. Some things have gone higher, some things have gone lower. But if you start with the old wheel, you're going to be already pre-formatted to which areas are important, to where you were in the score before. And we want you to focus each time on the current moment, on whichever moment that is. So not to think about whether it's better or worse than before, but how satisfied are you with each of those areas today, right now?
Okay, Natalia, that's really makes sense. really, really small steps, and make sure you take real one focused action about it. And you progress from there, one action at a time. Twice a year, like with the dentist, to go and do a checkup and do it
Yes, a
again
little
from
bit.
scratch.
You can say, on the day I go to the dentist, I'll do something fun, like the Wheel of Life. Not sure if it fills your cup, but
Definitely. So Natalia, this was very, very interesting and insightful for me. I really want to thank you for this coaching session that
you're
you walked
welcome.
me through, and our viewers. Your details are going to be attached below the video, so everyone, you're more than welcome to contact Natalia and to be in touch with her. Natalia, thank you very much. It was great.
It was my pleasure. I hope it gave you also for yourself a little bit of incentives to work on some areas, but also to give you the idea that you do have tools, and if you look at it close enough, you will know what to do.
Definitely. And my fun scale for today already grew and went up a notch. So thank you very much.
We went 1 point up just by doing the exercise.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
happy
you.
with
Have a
it.
great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you as well.